All right, welcome to the Rap Thought Podcast with Matt and Brandon. And today we're going to be talking about Shabazz Palaces, Lese Majesty.
Lese Majesty, which is the insulting of a monarch or other ruler, which is treason. I had to look that up. I was curious about it.
Yeah, so with the album title, what did that mean to you? Or were you interested in that, what that title meant?
Yeah,
going into this album?
I mean, I would say that the interest comes from another language, French.
Yeah, it's French. It's a French term.
So, I'm always curious with the album title, what it has to do with the album that I'm about to listen to. So that definitely played a little bit of a role going forward in what I'm listening for the songs.
Right.
But when I looked at with that title and then with some of the tracks are going into, it goes into a little bit of like Egyptian cultures,
right?
African cultures. I get a lot of like black empowerment out of this album, so kind of it made me think of like what the status quo is now, overthrowing that and laying out a new regime kind of thing. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's too far into reading. What did you get?
From that title, I was like, okay, this makes me, before this album came out, because I was a huge Shabazz Palaces fan before this album was released, so I was anticipating it. And when they announced the album title, like you, I didn't know what that meant, so I looked it up. And I just thought that was a really interesting concept to apply to an album. And I was interested to see what they were overthrowing or what they were rebelling against. Who was holding the throne? Obviously it's not literal. It's not like they're going against the government or something like that. So that caught my attention. But yeah, let's talk about Shabazz Palaces real quick.
Yeah, I looked at
There's a lot of history with this group and the members in this group.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you grabbed me an album, what was it, Black Up from 2011.
Yeah.
And so I remember
I almost wanted to do that album too. I was going back and forth between Lese Majesty and Black Up. At the end of the day, I put this album on there because it had more of an impact on me. And like I said before, a lot of that has to do with listening to the album when it comes out. I listened to Black Up afterwards, not in the moment. So I was a little bit late to that album.
So, I mean, a little bit about this group, hip-hop duo out of Seattle. I thought that's cool. I went to Seattle last year, and just the history that it had an underground city in that, in Seattle. And it was built up because of the water and flooding out. But yeah, I don't know. They're coming out of Seattle. That's pretty cool. I can't name any other artists in Seattle.
That's a really interesting thing too. Is what hip hop groups or artists are coming out of Seattle. I think the only one that really has gotten a name for himself is Jake One. I'm pretty sure he's from Seattle.
Okay,
but he's a producer.
Yeah, and with that said, I can't name any off the top of my head. I'm sure.
But did you look into Ishmael Butler and where he comes from with Digable Planets?
I saw that.
Yeah.
Formerly Butterfly from Digable Planets.
Exactly. So, I love Digable Planets, especially, in high school, digging into 90s hip hop. They're kind of the quintessential 90s jazz hip hop group. Even though back then it became, in the mid-90s, jazz rap became a little cheesy and kind of looked down upon.
I think it was aging out.
It was aging out, but artists were moving away from that sound.
Yeah.
And Digable Planets, to me, were the pinnacle of that sound. They did it the best. Their two albums are amazing. I always gravitated towards Digable Planets, and I loved Ishmael Butler's voice. I think he has one of the most distinct and recognizable voices in hip hop.
Yeah. I mean, I think he has a cool voice, but just how he carries himself throughout the album.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have the energy to. I feel like I'd fall asleep. But I don't know if it goes with the album of him kind of telling a story in a sense. So it kind of goes with what he's doing.
Right.
and what the album is talking about. I don't know. But he does have a cool voice though. It's just kind of low.
Right.
But yeah, the group, Ishmael Butler, aka Palacier, and then the producer behind it. I'm gonna butcher this.
I don't know how to say his name either. So.
Tendai Baba Maraire.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I'm sorry for doing that.
They share production credits. So Ishmael does a lot of the production as well. And then the other guy, I don't know how to say his name, but he adds in other instruments. He plays a lot of like the African instruments that go into the Shabazz Palaces sound. But I think most of the production is from Ishmael himself.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is you've been listening to this for a while. You've been following them for a minute. This is new for me. I've not.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this album, because it is so different. It's so left field.
It's very left field.
I love that. That's what gravitates me towards a lot of music, is that it is left field and kind of challenges, the status quo of what music today sounds like. To me, when I first heard Black Up from Shabazz Palaces, I was like, oh shit, this is music from, 2300, 2300.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you saying that it comes out of left field is a good kind of cover for this album. I've mentioned in other podcasts, I personally do not like albums that I feel like I'm deciphering them to understand what you're talking about. So I kind of went in, like the first couple listens, I was like, okay. But I actually watched one of his interviews about this album, and one of a couple of things that he was saying was he wants us to feel strange, but to like the feeling of feeling that strange feeling. He's talking about how inspiration is sensual for him. You experience something at a time, and it's emotional for you, and you absorb it. It could be a word, it could be a rhythm, it could be anything. You just kind of it hits you, you take it in for what it is. And so when I saw him talking about that, it kind of changed the way that I went about the album. Because if you listen to all the tracks, they are there's times where the lyrics are unorthodox, they may not rhyme, the beat may
even the song titles kind of throw you off.
The song titles throw you off.
Yeah.
The beats that are in the songs, like it sounds dissonant sometimes. It doesn't really match very well. And it did. When he said, like, I want you to feel strange, it's like, oh, okay, well, you did a good job. I do feel very strange, and I don't know what to get from this. Yeah. But, to go back to another thing, like I said, I feel like I have to decipher a lot of things. But in parts of this, I did have a good time looking at certain things. Like, my vocabulary expanded. Right. So that was...
It's very esoteric, cool. And... like he said in the interview, he wants to throw things at you that aren't so in your face. He doesn't want it to be face value things. He wants you to dive into the lyrics and kind of get lost in them and kind of try to figure out where you're at with it. You don't exactly know where you're going when you listen to a Shabazz Palaces song.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of see, and I could be wrong, but I mean, I see this being aimed at a particular audience, which I actually respect, because especially in current hip hop, it's really just we're putting out a good beat. We don't have to say anything to it, but as long as it sounds good, it'll keep people. The people that I see him drawing are going to stick with him because, hey, we like this for what it is. And I really respect that. And I like that.
Shabazz Palaces is their sound and the type of music that they make is never gonna catch on to mainstream or to even a large group of people below the mainstream.
Yeah, and even as you're talking futuristic, maybe not even right now, maybe somewhere down the line with some hipsters.
But throughout this album, the lyrics back that up. He really wants to show that it's just about the art. I'm not making music for any other reason than this is what I want to make. I don't care that it's not going to appeal to a lot of people. Yeah. That's not art. And he defends it by saying, if you're not challenging the sound, if you're just following a formula, then you're not evolving. You're not an artist.
Yeah.
You're not a true artist.
This is legit expression. And so that's the part that I really respect about it. I mean, maybe I won't.
And this is the type of music that influences everyone that hears it. It influences the artist. I guarantee there's mainstream artists that heard Shabazz Palaces in 2012 or 2011 when they first came out, and took elements from Shabazz and applied it to their music.
Yeah.
I would go as much as to say Kanye West has done that.
Yeah.
He's pulled from Shabazz Palaces. I would put money on it.
Yeah, and when you were saying that, I was thinking about one of the kids I work with. He wants to get into production. Like he's, working on it at his own pace, but he wants to start creating beats and everything. This is something I would like for him to listen to. It's like, hey, you don't have to have something flashy. There are people that are doing something that may not catch on, but like it's still, he's expressing himself. You can do this. Even if it's for a particular crowd. So I really do like that.
So with that said, let's get into the tracks.
Let's get into them. I found myself looking a lot into Egyptian culture, So with the start of the first track, Dawn in Luxor, obviously we know that that's a hotel in Las Vegas. But there's just a lot to... What did you get?
For me, when I love this beat. This song really pulls you into their universe. And it's almost as if you're going into space with Shabazz. You're going on this adventure with them. And the sounds are very spacey, and it's, it feels like you're out in another universe almost. But then he references Egyptian history, pharaohs, queens. To me, there's a little bit of like a sci-fi connection. Mm-hmm. All those like science fiction theories about aliens constructing the pyramids.
Right.
Or aliens coming down and helping the Egyptians build the pyramids at that time. Even though he doesn't exactly point to that in the lyrics, just the whole theme of it and everything around it, the sounds make me think of science fiction, aliens being out in outer space. That's the feeling I got from it.
Yeah, so I took down, I think it's the first verse. We're throwing cocktails at the furor, blackness is abstracted and protracted by the purest, modern cubist or surrealist. To sleep they couldn't lull us, so we synthesize our realness. Mm-hmm. And that gave me like a sense of transcendence, kind of like a higher power.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, so there's like a higher power. It's almost like a new world where blackness is accepted, and we can kind of bring our culture in and do what we want without any pushback and stuff. It's accepted, exercise, or we're accepted, and we can exercise without interruption. They didn't kill it. We were able to expand and grow our culture. There's just, like I said, no pushback. And the thing that I looked up on Luxor was that it was a temple dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. It may have been where many of the pharaohs of Egypt were crowned in reality or conceptuality. So you get this, whether if it's transcendence, a new thing, it's like this is synonymous with royalty, with acceptance, doing your own thing. So there's just a lot that I pulled out of that.
That's awesome. That's really cool that it motivated you to want to look up some things that he was referencing. One of the lyrics that I love from this song was, "You're rhythmic, a phasing shift. The ships that came from Kush, now they're re-aimed on a collision." And to me, these lyrics meant colliding of African culture and instruments with a new age of electronic music. And electronic sounds, because Kush is a ancient African city.
Yeah, and so I looked into that one too, and it was saying the Kush rulers were regarded as guardians of the state religion and were responsible for maintaining the houses of the gods. So yeah, there's just like this temple of knowledge and culture that's just he's holding sacred. And there was another part in his lyrics that I liked. It said consistent. Now that's the comfort of uninventive. And with that, I interpreted that as, people that aren't comfortable with moving out of their comfort zone. So to be consistent, so to do things on a routine basis, if you're comfortable in that, there's a lot of comfort.
Right. I wrote because I wrote down that line as well.
Okay.
And I wrote, art that is consistent without evolution or diversity is uninventive. It's a powerful line, and it gives light to a lot of the messages that are going to be coming throughout this album. Because if art is consistent, if you're an artist and you're consistently making the same thing or you're staying in one lane, you're not being inventive.
Right.
And I think Ishmael is just really pushing that idea throughout this whole album. And I think a lot of what the title means comes from that, rebelling against or overthrowing the notion that you need to stick to a formula and you need to be artful in the same ways that other people are being artful. But he's like, no, I can create my own lane and do that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, so we kind of have similar ideas that could go together. I'm trying to not force them, but trying to bridge them together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're talking about culture and art and knowledge, I don't know, all of that, it's basically just putting it on we hold it sacred. We don't want it to change. We keep moving. We keep evolving it.
Right.
I don't know how I want to bridge that. But it's just a lot that.
Yeah, it's cool. That's what I love about his writing style. He's not doing tons of lyrics. He's not throwing a lot of lyrics at you.
No, not at all. It's very
short little
track.
lines, and the way he flows. I think a word that I want to use for him, which is kind of outdated, is swag. Like the way he delivers his lyrics, it's just full of swag and coolness, and he makes you want to pay attention to what he's saying. And he does it in a short, concise way. He's not a super hardcore lyricist. He's not throwing a bunch of, he's not rapping fast at you and throwing a bunch of lyrics at you. It's like short little quips of information.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a lot that was a 4-minute track.
Yeah.
It's one of
There's a lot going on in that.
There's a lot going on, and that's actually
even the way it ends with gold and glitter, when he repeats those lyrics of glitter and gold.
All that glitter is gold. It's like Smash Mouth told us.
Yeah. For me, this is what I got of that is, most of these artists and musicians and rappers nowadays, they're making glitter music. It shines, but it's not going to last. It breaks down. Gold shines, but it lasts forever.
Right.
And it has weight to it.
Ooh.
And that's what he's saying in these lyrics is our music has weight to it, and it's going to shine brighter than glitter.
Okay.
Even though glitter might have its moment, it's 15 minutes of fame or whatever. These, the people at the top of the music industry right now, they have the glitter. They're shining right now. But underneath all of that is the gold that you kind of have to dig for. And that's what Shabazz Palaces is.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot right there. Was that, and then that's heading into forerunner foray. Kind of like just saying it, forerunner foray.
Yeah.
Kind of
reminds me of Halo, the Forerunners.
Yeah. But I mean, this one was a kind of got more of like living a lavish lifestyle out of this track. And the beat was okay.
Yeah, a little bit different style beat. I think one of the things that really makes me love this album is the way the beats are my favorite from Shabazz Palaces, but the way the beats flow into each other, I love.
Yeah.
You don't hear that very often. The beat fades from the first song, from Dawn and Luxor, the end of it. It fades, and then it's the same sound going into Forerunner Foray, and then it kind of develops into the new song.
Yeah.
I love that transition because I think the first time I listened to this, I didn't realize it was the tracks changed going into Forerunner Foray, and I love that because if you know the tracks changed, you're like, okay, I'm ready for a new song to start, and I'm gonna focus on the new song. But then it just feels like one continuous track.
I noticed that with #cake. I didn't know when that
Pound
song
cake.
actually ended. I had no idea. I was listening to it. Was outside. And it's like, oh, the song is still going.
Yeah, wait, there's another.
It's still going. So, but yeah, but Forerunner 4A, I mean, it had like a very chill beat to it. I liked
A little more laid back.
it. Was very laid back.
This one for me, so much swag and style in the way he's delivering these lyrics. When he said the lines, God smile on me favors, baby caught the vapors, magic, golden perp running like the filthy Lakers, self-savior, cream chaser in my red lavers.
And then he goes into talking about 88. I was there. I'm real. 92. 92.
Yeah, just so much swag when he said, like, I love the way he says perp running like the filthy Lakers.
Yeah.
Referencing the, the 80s Lakers,
Right.
Showtime.
Yeah, I just didn't. I mean, I think at that time I didn't catch what he was talking about. So I was like, okay, well, like I didn't know if he was
a little bit like just talking shit and
I didn't know if he was talking about blowing purple or describing, just
golden perp because yellow and purple.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
yeah.
I get the Lakers reference, but I mean, like, it's just purple, blowing weed and everything. So I was like, oh, is that some entendres? I don't know. But
Could be.
But yeah, but then you were talking about at the end of Dawn and Luxor, how he's talking about gold. Third track, they come in gold. So the first, thoughts of this track was beat got on my nerves a little bit. Hey. So that part, I don't know. I don't know if it's one of those that it stands out a lot more. So when you're, if you're listening to, I don't know, anything and something's louder than whatever else, it was loud for me. But, in the first couple lyrics, I like how he brings in vanity, sanity, and how these are priorities for him before the people that he looks up to. Like, this is who I am. This is what makes me. Yeah. And, maybe I've read too much into this one, but when he said strategy, the only way to cry, I took that as instead of, if something happens to you, instead of bitching about how this sucked and how things, aren't happening in your favor, you have to strategize to, well, how are you going to overcome that? You got knocked down. How are you going to get back up? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I got. I was like, okay, that's solid. I like that. Yeah, and I also got some new vocabulary out of that. Sepulture, which is a small room for a monument of dead bodies, which goes into, it made me think of the Egyptian influence that he's bringing into this. So,
yeah, I love the beat on this. I feel like it's such a hard hitting track. Like if you're blasting this in your car, like it's gonna hit hard.
I'm not blasting this.
But I love the lyrics in this as well. It's almost as if he's referencing the ego a lot. Mm-hmm. Some of the lyrics are lost but always found before the idols that I knelt. Strategy, the only way to cry. Keep it do or die and always think in terms of I.
Right. Keep it do or die, like always stay up and
yeah, so
move
he's
forward,
touching
make
on the
progress.
ego and religion together, saying, if he ever gets lost in his ego and his ego takes over, you can always revert back to religion to kind of bring you out of that. Kneeling before idols or to God, that brings your ego down.
Wow.
'Cause there's something above you.
That's cool that you caught that, because I was thinking idols, from I'm not religious, but I mean from, media people. So whether if you look up to rappers, because those are the first people that you really see and that you really grow an attachment. I want to be like this person. I want to be like Jordan. I want to be like Curry or whatever else. Like moving that off to the side. But you're also bringing up idols because, as we mentioned, the Egyptian, you talked about religion, that idol as well too. So any kind of a higher power that is really relevant,
Right.
that you have in mind. Yeah. So it was an interesting one. Solemn swears, kind of going back into, you were talking about ego. He's stating people that he's, I want to say emulating or like or similar to. So he brings up, Al Capone, Shaka Khan, Donald Duck, Jerry Rice,
yeah.
But at a glance. So it could be, he's just that energy that he brings with him at a glance. I'm not fully
Taking one
these
thing
people.
from them.
Yeah, one thing at a time as needed, depending where I am. So
Funny song.
Yeah, and short. Yeah. And that's the thing with this album is it's only 45 minutes. So a lot of these, there's some pretty short tracks.
Yeah, they're almost interludes.
Right.
Little interludes that they throw in between the longer tracks. But they're not labeled interviews, so you almost don't think of them as that.
Right. And the title doesn't insinuate that at all, that it's just a thing. But yeah, but Solemn Swears is like a minute and 30 seconds. Right. So, okay. My notes for Haram Aria, I have no idea. And I put strange. So going back to his interview of like, I want you guys to feel strange. This is one of them. It's 2 minutes of feeling strange. So I was like, I didn't know what to.
Sometimes you need that in your life.
I guess I need to get.
You need to be a little bit out of your comfort zone and feel strange for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's not what I had in mind with feeling strange, but
for me, this song was Shabazz Palaces recognizing that their sound is rebellious against the status quo. And that's why there's so many interesting sounds in this song, so many different things going on. And it's like a short little song of them just saying, hey, we're making this type of music because we don't want to follow the status quo, and we want this to be our art that we show everyone.
So let's pull a random artist. Well, let's talk Royce da 5'9" for a second. Okay. So a typical album by him, it's more lyrics, right? So I mean, I feel like you could take the production away and the message is in the lyrics. Would you, one of the things you just said a second ago, would you say that like Shabazz Palaces is more sound, which can incorporate lyricism, which can incorporate production? Do you feel like it's more sound than just lyricism from, say, on Royce's end or any other?
Absolutely. I feel that Ishmael is using his voice as almost just another instrument within Shabazz Palaces. It's just part of their sound. A lot of the times his voices, they filter it, and it's not his regular voice. They'll add a little bit to it, auto-tune or whatever, and they'll mix it up throughout the songs. So I feel that is his lyrics are there, but it's also just to add to the different sound that they're doing. The way he flows is very not of the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job of just that mixing, because it really is, it is the sound. You're listening to, I mean, any music sound, but like you really feel like it's just sounds for this. So my next question for that one is, I was talking with one of my 18-year-olds that I work with, and we were talking about the mumble rap scene and how it's just kind of about vibes and how the music makes you feel. It's very upbeat though. So that's the obvious difference between current hip hop, quote unquote, and Shabazz Palaces. Aside from that, what would you say, if this is sounds, what would be the difference between Shabazz Palaces sounds, modern hip hop vibes?
That's a great question. When I think about it, it's almost the same thing.
Right.
Just in a different way. They execute it differently, but they're trying to achieve the same thing.
Right.
A lot of what Shabazz Palaces does is a vibe. It's just a very different vibe than what is currently going on. But they want you to just come along with them on the sound that they're creating and the vibe. Kind of take you away from everything else that's going on, or all the other different types of music that's going on right now. They're going to take you in a whole different direction for 45 minutes, completely separate from anything else, which can be challenging at first. When you first hear this, you might be like, whoa, this is weird and different, and why are they doing this?
Yeah.
But then when you listen to it a few times, you start to catch on to the vibe that they're getting. It's not as approachable as the current, trap sound vibe. It's much easier to get into that right away.
Yeah, it's totally different. I was just going by definition, because if they're both out there, I mean, the difference in Shabazz Palaces is that they're actually giving you some form of content in their lyrics, but it's still delivered in a way that it sounds. It's meshing with what you're doing. But at the same time, current hip hop, on the other end, they're not too lyricism is not a big focus. They're really more into the vibes though. So, but I kind of equate it to clubbing, to just high energy and everything like that. This is a very mellow album. Shabazz Palaces is very mellow stuff. So it's kind of like, what's the how do you if there's a line between the two and you have sounds and vibes on opposite ends, how do you toe that line without getting shit on like we are, like a lot you see a lot with modern day hip hop? It's kind of a
I don't. That's a good question. I don't know. It almost depends on just what their audience is looking for.
And with you saying that, I think that kind of just comes full circle of, they have a very
what's interesting about what you're saying right now is Shabazz Palaces just put out a new album. It's definitely different than this one. All their albums are different from one another. But he had his son featured on the album with him, and his son is more of like a current SoundCloud trap rapper.
How old is he?
He's probably early 20s.
Okay.
But it was really cool to hear his son rapping with him in the Shabazz Palaces sound, but it's a new rapper fitting into that vibe.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. But that's just kind of like a lot. I mean, I think they do a great job of towing that line, and it's cool, kind of your offspring joining you in that movement and stuff. And especially new age, because he could kind of bridge those two together in a way. That'd be really interesting. Noretic Neuromantics?
Nor Romantics.
Normans. Auto spell. Yeah, correct me on my phone.
What did you get out of this?
This one, the immediate thing I picked up was that he found a partner that is on his level. And the touch and agree. So it's going beyond, this is just a one-night stand, this is a hookup, but like actually looking for someone that is on par with you.
Right. We're on the same level in terms of where our emotions are, our visions for ourselves and what we want in life, kind of on a deeper level. Really cool song. It's with the name of Noetic, Nor Romantics. It's like a romance song. He's combining the words of noir and romantic, so black love.
Right.
Kind of what I got from that.
Yeah.
So
noir and poetic for the first part too.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So for me, he's saying he thought he had seen everything before. He thought he had met every type of girl there is, and then he met her, and all of a sudden he hasn't experienced everything, and he's feeling something new, which is exciting.
Yeah. And it's so new and exciting that this is what I got from this one, that he becomes Lieutenant Major Winnings because he is, I'm in love now. But another note that I put by this was strange. The beat is very strange. I don't know if it's like a hypnosis kind of a feel of falling in love because you met someone that's great and is on your level. But that's the strangeness that I maybe got from that. I don't know.
I think that's a good point. I actually wrote down, I don't know what's going on in this.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I think for the listeners out there who've never heard of Shabazz Palaces and you're not used to hearing hip hop that goes left field, you will be feeling out of place, and it's okay to not know what the lyrics are about, or not know what the song's about, or not know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. I think that's part of listening to Shabazz Palaces.
I think it's part of, not only Shabazz Palaces, but just music in general. But I think that's, one of maybe my weaknesses is that if it makes me feel uncomfortable, or if I don't understand it, we fear what we don't understand. So we just want, no, fuck off. I don't want to deal with it. So, but yeah, embrace it. Feel strange. That was, like I said, when I saw his interview and he said he wanted to hear the one, I was like, okay, I'll play.
Yeah, fair game.
I'll play. So, yeah, Sound View, which is the 8th track, that was, I took down this line and it said, hey, They manufactured rules, settings, algorithms based on new movement, careers. Superstars were invented based on swings, the swinging of robots mimicking gods. And I just thought of the world, the Constitution, I don't know, all these things that are in place that we have to, social norms, so the Constitution, things that are explicitly written the way that we need to act, but then social norms. I know as an American, because I know it's different for Europeans, for everyone else, how close you should get to somebody, how you approach somebody. So it's just kind of maybe that could be the algorithms that are just innate within us. Versus manufactured rules and settings. But just, I don't know, superstars were invented based on swings. I don't know if that can go into like stories from Bibles and different books.
Really? Yeah, it could. Absolutely.
But yeah.
I took it more of he was directly talking about the music industry by saying, he's calling out the music industry for following algorithms to maximize profits, maximize album sales, maximize getting the most amount of listeners to listen to a body of work. Rap stars were invented. They're given a bunch of money and plastered everywhere, put on TV, advertised everywhere. And all of a sudden they're robots. They're following something. And they're following the trends, and they're just really, when he says mimicking gods, I think to him, the gods is the artist, the true artist. So all these rapper superstars are just trying to mimic the real artists. They're mimicking gods. They're saying, oh, they're doing all this, we're going to do that too.
And just when you get up to be that powerful, you are mimicking a god in a sense. Gods on earth. Mm-hmm. When you have that power, when you have that respect, you can virtually do anything that you want. Mm-hmm. So I think my interpretation, I took it in the broader sense. I think your sense makes more sense for, because I think he touched on some of the things I was reading. He touched on the politics of the rap game and stuff earlier, so that would make more sense. But I mean, with that said, though, I think it can go either way. But yeah, that got deep. It made me think of it in a different way, so I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. And he carries on the mimicking gods concept into the next song, Ishmael, which is his name.
Yeah, I actually didn't tie that together until just now. I was like, oh wait, yeah, that is his name.
Yeah.
But the beat when it was starting, for me it was offbeat, and there was a lot going on. There was a lot. I didn't take the time to see what instruments I was hearing, but I feel like I'm hearing at least 5 or 6 different things happening at once, and maybe not going as well. But then it eventually settles down. But then even when it settles down, you're getting a lot content-wise, even though that's also a short track. So I don't know how many lines he has with Sinister and sinning and in that first verse, but you get the sense that people sin and I put that other things that I don't know. So I got to end that thought right there. It was just a lot going on with the beat and his content.
Yeah. A lot of these lyrics in this song definitely play into the theme of the album of Lese Majesty, dethroning the current music sound and trends by being himself and not following the trends. And he also calls out other artists for copying styles. If you're copying, and this is a concept that was very heavy in the hip hop world early on in the 80s and 90s. If you were caught copying another artist, that was looked heavily down upon, and you're going to get blackballed, or people aren't going to want to mess with you anymore.
Oh yeah.
Today, everyone's copying everyone.
Oh yeah.
That's just part of the game now.
I can't tell the difference between a lot of these new rappers.
So it's really interesting, and he's still under that mindset of, hey, you can't copy anyone's style. You need to create your own.
Yeah. And so it's funny because with this track, I didn't comprehend it as much as I would have liked. But with the next track, Down 155th in the MCM Snorkel, Yeah, that was right.
cool.
I did pick up on the we don't fuck with fake people. We laugh at fake rappers, and that selling out with your fake stuff doesn't make you cool just because you're rich. That's the main thing I got out of this. And I don't know, just kind of building off of that last track.
Yeah, it's definitely building off of each other. I think that's what I'm when I mentioned earlier that all the songs sonically they flow into each other. The lyrics kind of flow into each track too. There's a lot of thoughts that are carried on, or certain lyrics that are carried on to the next song that really helps a whole album flow in different ways.
Yeah. With this, some other thoughts I put down was, I actually thought the beat was okay. I enjoyed listening to it. The lyrics got unorthodox at times when they didn't. I'm so used to and cultured to like things need a rhyme. So when it doesn't, I'm like, what are you doing? So,
right.
but it was cool. I like the message in that. But it's cool because even in his way of doing his lyrics, it's still like when we did Return of the Boom Bap, he's very, KRS-One is very much like, we don't fuck with fake rappers. Right. We don't
exactly.
do that. And he's doing it in a very mellow way.
I got a weird image from listening to this song. I got the image of he was in the future, like thousands of years from now, retelling the story of hip hop to kids, and he's using words to continue the story almost like a tribal way of he's passing on down this lineage. He's explaining how they used to do ciphers, freestyle ciphers, and those are almost, he compared them to like ceremonies, like religious ceremonies. These artists would go in a circle and rap to each other. That was the image I got. I don't know if he's trying, it might be completely different from his vision for these lyrics, but that's this, from the sound and lyrics, that's kind of what I envisioned in my head.
That's pretty creative. I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's just, music to me has always been subjective, and it puts people in different spots. Like, even as we talk about this, we have similar ideas, but sometimes one's more broad than the other, one's more to the point of what the song actually was portraying. So I think that's cool to, that's where it took you.
Right. And then Divine and Form is just an instrumental interlude.
Yeah.
Breaks it up a little bit before going into
I don't know if
Pound Cake. I think it's Pound Cake.
Oh, whoa. I mean, I'm so 2020.
Pounds, cocaine, pound.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, well, no, but it's I'm so 2020 that I'm like, hashtag cake.
There were hashtags back then. I don't know if they're as big as they are now.
So to redeem myself a little bit, do you know what the actual name for the pound sign is? Some trivia for you?
No, I do not.
It's an octothorpe.
Octothorpe. I didn't know that.
Hey, Snapple Facts, number 451. I don't know. So that makes more sense to me because it's like he is not saying pound cake in that song. But with that song, I listened to this album in different areas. So I listened to it on a run. I listened to it going to sleep. I listened to it on a walk just to see where it fit with me. Cake stood out for me on a walk because there were times where, you're walking, you see this horse and you're like looking at that, you look at some trees, so you zone out from the music. But then I keep getting brought back with the we eat cake, or what? I eat cake. Wait. Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what he was saying, but it kept bringing me back. And to be honest, it was one of those songs where I found it very annoying because I'm like, it's one of those where you zone a lot. It's repeating a lot, and it's one of the ones where I was saying earlier where that part is louder than the rest of the song. And I mean that metaphorically, like it's a lot louder. So it's the only thing you catch up on. So it wasn't until, I on the fourth or fifth one, I was reading the lyrics. I'm like, okay, this is what he means. So what I got was, he's the whole expression of have my cake and eat it too. When he's talking about all these different scenarios of whether if it's good or if it's bad and having his cake while eating it. But I also got the sense of, whether even if it's bad, but dealing with the consequences that follow, but you still have your cake. So if you steal something, the cops are after you. It's like, well, I have this. So it's like, I have my cake and I'm eating it too. because I'm about to pawn this off, but I'm about to get arrested at the same time.
Right.
And so, so the question at the end for me was like, is it worth it? And some of the things that he was saying.
Yeah, and one of the lines that I really liked from this song was, "Why raise the sun and not dance in its light? Make the gods laugh at such questions with delight." And what I got from that is, why not indulge in the pleasures of life? Why not why be here on earth and not experience everything that you can?
Yeah.
If it's there, and dance in it, like relish in it, just go for it. But the gods above you, or God, is gonna laugh at you and be like, you're making a bunch of mistakes. This isn't good for you. But you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I like that part. It's definitely being in the moment. But like you're saying, you're talking about the good. I was mentioning some bad, but like to, it is what it is. Just bask in it, eat your cake.
I also think, it's relative to what's good and bad. Like, some people may not see what we see in bad things. They might look at that and say that's a good thing.
All subjective. Colluding oligarchs. An oligarch.
Teach us. Teach us, oh wise one.
A small group of people having control of a country, organization, or institution. Government by oligarchy. So, I mean, in other tracks, we've talked about how there's just like one power and suppression of other groups, but then wanting to come up with that confidence and be. I'm just going to end it with just to be. So colluding oligarchs, I think of collusion with like Trump and everything, because that's the one that first like became familiar with that word. But like you think of all these different groups, all these different cultures, all these different controls, and like we all collude with each other, and we take pieces of it, and we may not acknowledge the other one, but we take parts from it. But like one of the things that stood out was touching marble and not garbage, and I was like, okay, that sounds kind of bougie. But I mean, it could even be, like I said, taking from one's culture, whether if you're taking from hip hop, if you want to talk about rock and roll, borrowing from blues. We're going to take some things from here, not all of it, but yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I got that he was saying like the heads of labels, like music executives, were the oligarchs. They're colluding with each other to take advantage of the artists and to make money off of them.
So this is the second time where you've mentioned, with the music industry. Where did I miss that it was music industry?
Well, I'll read you the lyrics right now.
Thank you.
It says, safe from colluding oligarchs, that's grinding art from artists, manipulating markets just to filling up their margins. They'll never touch the carpets. So he says, grinding art from artists, forcing the artists to produce art for them, manipulating the markets. They're going to force the music down the throats of the consumer. They're going to do whatever they can to get their music on the radio. They'll do payola. They'll pay for streams so that a song streams higher.
Okay.
Which in 2014 streaming was around, but it wasn't as important as it is now, which goes on today. And then he says just to fill up their margins, just so they can get sales and fill up their banks at the record labels, but they'll never touch the carpet. So like the record label, executives or the heads, they're not on the street. They're not the ones making the art.
Right.
They're not the ones touching the ground and
they're not the boots on the ground and doing
what. So that's what I got from that, is just he's calling out those people that are in charge of the art.
Yeah.
business part of it.
And that makes a lot of sense. I think I'll go with I like my broader sense, but yours is way more.
No, but it's good to have a broader sense because I think it can be both.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it can. I just think for the context of what, for the other things that he's talking about, I think what you were saying lies more in with that. I'm taking it to a broader level that, I don't know, maybe that's just what I perceived from it. That's what it taught me. So, but that's cool. And I don't know if it kind of goes in with suspicion of shapes, but just how, there's different constitutions, there's different rules in place for things. And so asking, I don't know, if people are stuck in that set of values, it's kind of like calling them out like, oh man, you guys are so restricted in what you're letting those values restrict the art that you can create and what you're doing. And so I kind of put oh, that's how you guys are? You're restricted? So it's kind of calling them squares in a sense. So suspicion of shapes. If you're, it's kind of it hurts my feelings if you call me a square because it's I'm a lame and I'm doing things in a very, routine fashion.
Well, I pulled a Brandon and I looked up the definition of quantized electronics.
Oh.
Because he does say quantized.
I looked that one up too. I just didn't put it down.
It's approximate by one whose amplitude is restricted to a prescribed set of values. Mm-hmm. So if he's calling other artists quantized, he's saying all those other artists follow a specific set of values. They follow a certain algorithm or equation to make their art, sell their art.
Yeah.
For him, he's creating his own algorithm or he's creating his own quantized electronic that's different from everyone else's. Or he's just not using it at all. He's not using a specific set of values.
Which goes back to another track where he was calling people robots. Mm-hmm. And, and as you were talking earlier, you're just doing something for the label to just sell. Hey, we're putting you in this box. We want you to portray this image. We want you to sell it. This is what we can make the most money off of you for. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Mind Glitch.
Keytar TM theme. Don't forget the rest of the title.
I paraphrased it because it was Mind Glitch I took with synonymous with confusion. Mm-hmm. You have a glitch. Sounds like he's kind of taking a seat by the fireplace and recollecting his thoughts to kind of get back to where it was.
It's kind of a dark sound. It's looming and dark with the guitars in this song. That's the vibe I got from it. Just something's looming or, something's about to happen that's dark.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off kind of upbeat with the drums in the back. And then it kind of
when the guitars come in, it's very eerie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another shorter one too. That wasn't very.
Yeah, but interlude. Another interlude. Yeah,
and it's repetitive. He's just repeating the same stuff over and over. And then we go into Motion Sickness, which I saw again addressing the fake people.
Mm-hmm. This is my favorite song on the album. I think I love the beat in this. I love the bass line. Is it this one for me? When you pump this up in the whip, dude, this song hits. This song hits hard.
I don't know if I'm.
Well, you said you listen to this when you're walking or running or you're wearing headphones, right?
Yeah.
It's different when you're in a car or you're listening to it on the big sound system. I think it's gonna hit you different.
Oh yeah, this is Motion Sickness. I'm trying to think is that how I felt? I mean, I remember I put down that the first verse kind of got me. Crime related, activated, trap located, strapped to spray. If you face the case, you faded. And just kind of this spray of all this stuff, and I was like, okay, that's cool.
It's fast paced. It goes in. For me, this song, and I've watched the music video. Mm-hmm. He's kind of telling a story of a criminal activity.
Yes, yeah.
And when he's saying all those lines right away, like quick, it's fast and it's dangerous, which how a lot of criminal activity is.
Right.
You do things quick, you get out, it's fast paced, it's dangerous. So he's throwing these quick words at you.
And like you said, he's expressing all the dangers within that. All these, it's along with the crimes being committed. It's very fast, it's very quick.
And in the background, the vocal is money, repeating. Money, money, money at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
So criminals do all this dangerous stuff for money.
Money motivated.
Yeah. And I like the lyric. I just think it has so much swag. And it is life's a bitch. Treat her good, or she'll get you back.
Yeah, to end on that note,
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. Because, I mean, the first rapper I thought of was Lil Wayne, mentioning life's a bitch and everything. So, and life is a bitch right now, in quarantine right now and everything. It's crazy. But, this is the second to last track, New Black Wave. Let's see where these are the lyrics I took down. We don't pose or talk on moves, stellar beings, lockstep and groove, who can plot absurd views. We don't wait on a word from you. And I think this takes me back to the first track of just black empowerment and rising up and the culture. Like, I really like stellar beings, lockstep and groove. Like we're hand in hand together. We're marching up with what we have, and we're confident about it. And so that line kind of stuck with me.
I wrote that he was claiming to start the new wave of black music.
Yeah.
Afrofuturism. Right? They're looking into the future of where can we take black art and what's it going to look like.
Yeah. I like that. And, the other level, as I mentioned, that I took it is just, along with music, but taking, I don't know, just empowerment. I like the message overall of the song. I thought that was cool.
And then that leads into Sonic Myth Map for the Trip Back, which is the last song on the album.
What do you think?
I got it. It's an outro. For me, it was like, it's bringing you back down to earth after this big excursion you just went on. You just went into the future, into a different galaxy with Shabazz Palaces, and now this song kind of brings you back brings you back home, basically.
Yeah, because it's really a repetition of myth towards the end of the track. And so for the trip back, I can kind of see that. Like, we brought us high up and now we're coming back down with what our thoughts are and stuff. So yeah, it's a mellow track.
Yeah.
And it's a very short.
Right. That's what I meant by bringing you back down home. It's all right. You're going to calm down. It's almost, when you're coming home or you're returning for something, you don't want to, and it's been a long day. You don't want to hear like a hard sounding track. You don't want to listen to something so upbeat. You want to listen to like a chill song just to relax you and just vibe out to.
Yeah.
It's almost like that.
It's like going for a run. Like, you want to end with a cool down run after running 2 or 3 miles at a fast pace. You got to ease your body back in. So that's the cool down run for the last track. So, but that's it. That's it. So what are your overall thoughts of this album, listening to it, throughout the week? Yeah, I mean, I want to say that I probably listened to this one more than the other ones that I've listened to. And I don't know if it's because it didn't sit very well with me and I had to find a way to overcome. Because if I lose interest in something, that I want nothing to do with it. But also with my own mentality, let's say we're in an argument or something like that, I like to understand where the other person's coming from. And I've mentioned this in a past podcast, but it's like I like to think of it objectively as possible. But in order to think objectively, you have to become comfortable with things that make you feel
You have to understand it.
You have to understand it. You really have to. You can't just push it away. So, I mean, that's... And then in talking about it, because, as we may have mentioned before, you and I don't discuss the record beforehand. We come in here raw with what our thoughts are. So, kind of walking in, I was like, man, like, I don't know. But after talking about it, it's like there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of content that I missed, but wasn't far off from what I was initially coming in with, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
I think it's fair to not know everything after only listening to the album for a week.
right, you can't.
Especially an album like this, you're not going to catch everything. Well, I've been listening to this album since it came out.
Right.
But even still, there's a lot of things really analyzing each lyric and breaking it down. I learned a lot of new things as well.
Right. I mean, when you look at the album, because again, like it's 45 minutes. And so there's almost this, personally, like a frustration with why don't I get it when this is the shortest album that we've reviewed so far. But I actually got more on two levels. One that was actually being portrayed, because as we were saying, I took a broader sense. You were going for what was actually in there. I don't want to say the literal sense because it's subjective, but also just more than what I thought I was getting at the same time. Maybe I read into it way too far, but that's good too, because I'm forming new thoughts and inciting new thoughts, and that's cool.
And what about the sound, the production of the album? Did that grab you at all after the first listen?
So the listen, I mean, it's one of those, and this is why with this one I did it in different scenarios: walking, running, sleeping, just hanging out at the house. And I was trying to see like what kind of mood it made me feel. And it's not one I don't want to listen to this while I'm on a walk. I think maybe maybe on a hike I wouldn't want to listen to this. If I'm walking through my neighborhood and I'm zoning out, this is fine for that. If I'm falling asleep, this is fine for that. Unlike you, I can't bump any of this in my car. It just doesn't give me that. I don't feel that type of energy from that.
Gotcha.
I like, when I was the other album that I had listened to by them, Black Up, it was way more upbeat. There was more energy to it.
Definitely. I'm
more likely to bump parts of that from that album than from this one. It's just, I don't feel like this is the setting for me. I'm not saying you can't do it at all. It's just, that's not the setup that I got from it. but I mean, when with you coming up, do you have it in different scenarios? How do you listen to this album?
Mainly driving. I like listening to this album driving, even when it first came out. Really great album to just put on, especially if it's a longer drive. 40-minute drive, you're gonna get through pretty much the whole album, and it hits hard in the car. Like when you have the bass turned up, you really start to feel, and you can hear all the instruments, and you really get a sense of the sound and the vibe that they're trying to put out there. Also, I had this record on vinyl. It's a great album to play on vinyl because you're playing through the whole song. You're not skipping tracks. So putting this on, after a few glasses of wine and just kind of vibing out to it is a great way to listen to it as well. Yeah,
and I'll second that. I mean, I really, as you mentioned way back, I do appreciate the transition from song to song to song. And, it just does it really well. You don't have a song that's mellow and then you just go way up and it's super high energy. It's like it maintains the same energy throughout. And I thought that was cool. But that's why, like, I can't, but at this, actually, let me say this. At the same time, when I was listening to this on the walk, when it ended, I wasn't like, oh, fucking thank God it's over. I was kind of like, oh, it's over. Like, that was,
what just happened?
So I was like, but I mean, everything meshed so well and it was so smooth that I was like, not disappointed, but I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll listen to it again. But I just didn't catch all the transitions between songs.
Yeah, so for our listeners, it can be a challenging listen if you're not already into different types of music than what you're used to, or exploring different genres, especially electronic music, because there is a lot of that in here. It can be a challenge. I think one of the interesting things is, well, not interesting things, but a story is about Shabazz Palaces with my girlfriend, Brigitte. The first day I ever met her, I had already bought a ticket to go see Shabazz Palaces in San Francisco. And she ended up coming with me. I was like, hey. So I asked her, like, hey, do you want to come with me? I'm going to this crazy show. It's kind of weird, electronic hip hop with African elements and instruments and things like that. And she was like, hell yeah, I'm down. And I was like, okay, that's legit. And then she came to the show and she thought it was weird, but she stuck it out and she appreciated it for what it was. It wasn't necessarily her type of music, but she was open to it.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I kind of get the vibe of it. And I see why someone would like this type of music. And especially seeing it live, you really get it, a sense of what they're trying to do. Yeah, she thought it was weird and crazy, but she still does. She likes listening to them when I put them on. Mm-hmm. She's still okay with it, but she's not going to bump it on her own. So that's just something about Brigitte that I love, is that she's just open to this type of music, because not everyone would be. I feel like for a lot of people, it would be a really tough challenge to get through this album.
Oh, that's cute.
No, I had to mention that. No, it's a dope story. I mean, imagine taking a girl to this Shabazz Palaces the first day you meet her. Like,
I think she's just trying to get your number, but
maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
who you bumping this for?
Or how you bumping it for?
Yeah.
And why am I bumping it? I mean, I think I always say this is a broken record, but I think if at most it's background music for me. I can't think of anyone.
I'm definitely bumping this for everyone. Just to, even if they don't like hip hop, I still want to bump this just to blow their mind or just to freak them out a little bit. Because I think it's interesting and I think it'd be funny to see their reaction. So I like to play it for everyone.
So you just want to do it for the shock value.
Exactly. But I think it's dope music as well. It's not like I'm playing it just to shock them and then I don't care about it. It's like, I really like this music and I love this album. But I also think it's cool to watch people's reactions to it.
If you've played it for 5 friends, how many of them would you say you got them to stick?
Maybe 1 or 2 out of the 5. Most of them would be like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah,
but I don't think they would
not gonna follow after that.
Yeah, which I don't care. Like I'm still gonna play for them anyway.
Yeah. No, that's what's up.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our rap thoughts on Shabazz Palaces, Lese Majesty. Please follow us on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can interact with both of us on there. We want to hear your rap thoughts on this album, any of our past albums, any albums you want us to focus on, or just music in general. We're always down to interact with you guys.
We're pretty active on there, so definitely hop on and ask us questions, give us feedback, say it sucks, whatever is clever. I'm down to hear it all. So, but yeah, thanks for giving us a listen and liking, subscribing, sharing, all that good stuff.